This is the team. The six of us met at the San Antonio airport about 4:30 in the morning and boarded a small plane to Los Angeles, where we got on a bigger plane for the flight to Japan. It was a brand new Boeing 777 and we had a Linux operating system in every seat, so I was totally geeking out. After a 9-hour flight, we finally landed in Tokyo, where we took a 2-hour train ride to a Bible college dormitory on the edge of town. Restless night, trying to sleep. Another hour on the train. 15-minute hike through the streets of Tokyo on a balmy day finally brought us to the Crash Japan headquarters. Crash knew exactly what to do. They rented us a really nice van. We packed ourselves and our luggage, and we hit the road. For the next 9 hours, we drove through some of the most beautiful panoramas I've ever seen. Lush and green and tidy. Every glimpse of the countryside was a new wow. Rice fields, neat little and big houses, streams, mountains. The Tono base camp is a traditional Japanese farmhouse with toilet slippers, paper doors, and tatami floor. The next morning we woke up, rolled up our beds, had devotions, got our assignments, piled into the vans, and headed for the coast down some really scary mountain roads that are so narrow you have to fold the mirrors in just to pass oncoming traffic. The coastal town of Kamaishi, where we spent most of our time, was an hour and a half down, over, and under this verdant landscape. You are about to see some major wreckage, so I want to warn you. This is what Kamaishi looked like on 3/11. And after 6 months of obviously hard work, this is what it looks like today. There's been a lot of work accomplished over the last 6 months, to be sure. But as you're about to see, there is so much more to be done. The devastation within a few hundred meters of the Pacific Ocean is so complete that they will be working here for the next several years. The scale and scope is so massive that many survivors are losing all hope. Suicide is rampant. Mental illness is pervasive. All of these businesses, homes, and possessions have been intractably mixed, blended, soaked, muddied, and emulsified. We saw dozens of huge parking lots full of wadded up cars, mountains of shredded debris, empty lots with only slabs of their former landmarks, and red flags to mark the places where bodies were found. The work is still ongoing, and while people are coming from all over the world to help Japan recover, really, most of the work is being done by the Japanese. The little house we returned to every night had between 12 and 25 people staying there. Teams and individuals have been coming and going on a daily basis, and staying for days, weeks, or months. 15 different countries have been represented in that house over the last 4 months. While we were there, a group of 12 Japanese pastors stayed for a few days. And then 7 came from a church in California, 5 more from a church in Hawaii, in addition to several individuals from all over Japan. What you're about to see is just an illustration of the power of the ocean. This huge ship was tossed onto the seawall by massive waves as if it were a toy. And we're talking about half-inch thick steel. This is a preschool where 60 small children were in attendance the moment the earthquake hit. When the tsunami came, it coated everything with several inches of mud and upturned the cribs. The principal of the school took the children to high ground. The only child that was lost had been picked up by his parents and taken to the community center. The older generation, you see, had been taught to go to high ground, but the younger generation were trained to go to the community center. And the younger generation suffered heavily. So what do? I mean, you see all this damage and you see the destruction and you just want to do something. I mean, you want to go and do physical work. You want to haul furniture off and pull up the flooring and rip down the ceilings and tear out the walls and shovel the muck and just help to clean it up. But there's so much more needed than just physical labor. The man who owns this building is an optometrist. He and a group of local businessmen, including his friend there, own shares in the building that we were working on. He said to me, "Today, I'm very lucky. because I found this." And then he showed me this dirty, crumpled up piece of paper. And he said he had just come in and found it laying on top of the muck. The first column shows the names of the companies, and the second column shows the names of the presidents of the companies, his partners. Most of them were washed out to sea, and this is the only memory he now has of them. What they really need is hope. CRASH stands for Christian Relief, Assistance, Support, and Hope. What we do is we go out to where they live. These temporary communities house anywhere from 40 to 600 people. They are well built, fully furnished, and a huge effort has been put into making them comfortable. What we do is we make connections. We set up tents and tables and chairs. We provide hot and cold drinks and light snacks and books and games and conversation. And we make friends. We spend time with them. We take a genuine interest in their well-being. We play. And we make a place for them to finally meet their neighbors. These two men had seen each other around town and around the community, but they didn't know that they were both named Sato. We would also send teams to a facility that the Catholic Church set up for volunteers to bring photographs and albums that they had found during cleanup. Our teams would spend the day carefully wiping the photographs and posting them on the walls for the survivors to look through. Occasionally, someone would recognize the people in the pictures and take them from the wall. This reporter from the Yomiuri newspaper asked me why we would come all the way from America. I just pointed to the conversations that were going on under the tent and said, "For this." All she could get out was an almost silent "thank you." Sato was so touched that he wanted to help us break down our mobile cafe. He wasn't alone. That happened frequently. As a rule, the Japanese are considerate and gracious. They seem to have 50 different ways to say thank you and I'm sorry. And each has to be used in a very carefully prescribed manner. Even their road construction signs are courteous. Notice the guy bowing in this one. Now, I don't recommend this, but by a miracle of God, we got to the airport 20 minutes before an international flight. The all-Nippon Airlines staff got us our boarding passes, escorted us through security, put us at the front of the line for customs, apologizing profusely on our behalf to the people who were already in line, and carrying our bags as we all sprinted through the terminal to our gate in order to get us on the plane in under 15 minutes. The flight crew noticed that 2 of our team members were wearing their Crash Japan t-shirts, and they wanted to say thank you. So they gave each of us a bag of complimentary ANA amenities and a personal handwritten note. My heart wanted to go and be a blessing to Japan, but this just proves you can't outbless God.